let's have share the light about the global aspect of the radicalism as well. Today, Islamic world facing with many threats from address of Islam under the name of the Islam. For example, we can start from ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Taliban. Don't we need a joint declaration like a fatwa from whole Islamic community and condemn all such terroristic movement and activity? Do you think, OIC, that we need a joint declaration to condemn all such groups in the world?
But first, let me say this. We should not victimize ourselves. We should not accept the notion that others are promoting, that the Islamic world is only violence. I think these are minorities. The Islamic world in its vast majority is composed of people who are busily involved in the making of their lives, who have excelled in many fields of medicine, of science, of literature. We carry a great inheritance, a great civilization, a great culture that is part of the progress all humans have made. So let's not look at ourselves the way some people want us to look at ourselves. Islam is not a violent religion. Islam is a religion that calls for justice, for human rights, for equality, for involvement, for political participation, for shura. This is what we are. This is what Islam is. Now, if we have some extreme voices, first thing, we should not let them steal the stage. We should not let them kidnap Islam. We should not let them pretend they are Islam. And we should not let others expand the idea that Muslims are like this. We have to be aware of this, that some of these violent, extreme voices are also being used to campaign against Islam. Now, there has been many statements, many fatwas, like you said. As far as the OIC is concerned, there were many statements. If you care to go to our site, you will see. And also, as part of the OIC, there is the Fiqh Academy, which is composed of Muslim scholars. They have met a number of times, issued a number of statements condemning radicalism and saying it's not part of Islam, that whatever atrocities these groups commit are criminal in nature. But we need to go beyond that. We need to dismantle these movements. We need to confront them on their own ground. And the only way to do this is to understand what these phenomena stand for and be able to confront their components, dismantle it, and defeat it. And also defeat those who want to use them against Muslims and against the regions they exist. We need action, not only fatwas. But please don't be part of the discourse that generalize extreme voices and say this is Islam voice. No, it's not. It's not.
Till now, do you realize that who used such radical groups among us toward the Islams? Do you realize this one? Who support and who used this one?
Well, let me take ISIS as an example. Now, who benefits from a weakened Iraq? Who benefits from a torn apart Iraq? Iraq is a great country. It has one of, I think, the second largest oil reserve in the world. Iraq has excellent human skills in terms of education, in terms of ability to industrialize, to produce. Iraq has a great culture, their literature, their music. Baghdad has always been in the imagination of every Arab and every Muslim. Now, who benefits from dismantling Iraq, of turning it into a torn-apart country with an endless civil war? Well, as you know, we have heard official voices advocating creative chaos in the Middle East. We have seen new cons taking responsible positions in many government places. We have an occupying force in the form of Israel that any weakening of its neighbors is directly beneficial to it. Now, this is not to say that there is nothing wrong within us. Of course there is. We have to confront our own shortcomings. But we have also to see who else benefits from the destruction of Syria.
Yes.
You know, there are 9 million Syrians now who have either been displaced within Syria or are refugees outside of Syria. There's almost 250,000 Syrians who have been killed. And then the international community just looks and watches and sometimes uses vetoes in the Security Council. Who benefits from this? Is Syria only the destruction of chemical weapons? We have been witnessing that destruction for almost 3 years now. Who benefit from the continuation of Israeli apartheid state in Palestine? Who benefits from dehumanizing Palestinians? Who benefits from destroying Gaza and flattening it every couple of years or so? The West Bank, Gaza are all big prisons. Did you know that a person living in Al-Quds cannot leave Al-Quds? If he leaves Al-Quds to get married from another Palestinian in a village next door to Al-Quds, he will not be allowed to come back and live in his own. Do you know that if a Palestinian in Al-Quds in Jerusalem try to go to school or a university in Palestine, in the West Bank, he cannot come back to Al-Quds under the Israeli apartheid laws? Do you know that Palestinians cannot use the highways to drive on? This dehumanizing, this continuous ignoring of the rights of entire people, who benefits from this? It's certainly not the Palestinians, not the Syrians, not the Iraqis, not the Muslims.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. We are just coming to the conclusion and 2 questions more remain. What are the top 3 challenges of Islamic community in the world?
Poverty eradication is a definite challenge that we all have to face and confront, and we're doing everything we can, and we think the way forward is not just mega infrastructure project, but also microfinance projects where we can reach out to the veins of the economy in each country, where we reach small business units, family-based units. And microfinance, as you know, is not just loans, it's also capacity building, it's access to the marketplace, it's how to construct a business.
Mr.
So
Secretary
poverty
General,
eradication
let me have
is a
an interruption
priority.
as well.
No, go ahead,
The
please.
Muslim community, especially the Arab world, is the owner of oil in the world. So
As the owner of?
the oil. And once again, the poverty is the big challenge for this community?
Well, the richest country on earth is the United States of America. And American cities have homeless, and only 1% of the American people own 90+% of American wealth. So the richness of a country does not mean that it has no poverty. But I'm talking about the Islamic world at large. You asked me what are the most important challenges. I think eradicating poverty and sustained economic development is a big challenge. It's the second, I think, big challenge is political participation. We have to address questions of inclusion of civil society, recognition of a whole new generations coming in. Most of the member states are young generations. How we interpret the Shura principle within our Islamic discourse. But political participation is a definite challenge that we have to address. And of course, the most important other challenge is what we have been talking about throughout this session: extreme voices, sectarian violence, and Islamophobia. I think these are main challenges. You only said three. I can go on more than three that we face as an OIC.
These are top three challenges of Islamic community. We come to the end question, and what was the position, the reaction of OIC against the republishing of Muhammad peace be upon him cartoon by Charlie Hebdo?
Well, we made our position official, and there was an official statement that was made. We condemn the killings. We don't think going into a newspaper office or any place and killing innocent people is justified. You can bring them to court, you can bring them to justice, but you cannot go in and kill innocent people. But we also have condemned the insults that Charlie Hebdo and other publications have made against our Prophet, Sayyidina Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. We don't think this is freedom of speech. We think this is hate speech. Have these cartoons been about criticizing some social phenomena in the Muslim world, criticizing the condition of women in the Muslim world, we would have all thought that they were justified. But what justification, what could be the justification of insulting a prophet of Islam? And to say that we do the same for Sayyidina Isa, for Jesus and other prophets, misses the point. We're not talking about what they think is holy, we're talking about what we think is holy to us. And we also must remind them that even in France, that hold the flag of secularism, there are red lines that no freedom of speech justifies. If you raise certain issues, you're immediately charged as being anti-Semitic and brought to court, and you can go to jail. We all remember the case of the well-known thinker and writer and intellect, Garoudi. He was brought to court in France. So there are red lines that every society, every culture, every religion has, and we should respect those red lines. We don't challenge France because it has anti-Semitic laws.
Mr. Secretary General,
they should also respect our red lines.
Okay, although you mentioned that the killing you condemn, and the thing that the Charlie Hebdo do, you also condemn that one as well. But they accept that playing with the holy things are red line for us. So what should we do about such groups and such organizations? They do playing with our holy things?
Well, we can do many things, but mainly as an organization, we are involved in pushing for an international decision, first at the Geneva, in the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, to legislate laws, international laws against hate speech, to differentiate between hate speech and freedom of expression. And two, we should also explore legal ways of bringing legal actions against...
like what?
Going to court, using the laws of the land.
Which court?
French courts. They have laws. European courts, they have laws. We have to use every avenue available to us to make these people legally pay for their irresponsible, foolish action against our Prophet. So these are two main lines: to legislate internationally, have an international agreement defining hate speech, and each country will legislate its laws against it, and also to use every legal mean available to bring these people to justice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Iyad Amin Madani, the Secretary General of OIC, for giving chance for us.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. و سپاسگزارم از شما دوستانی که این گفتگوی ویژه را دنبال کردین. تا فرصت دیگر، خدا نگهدار.